Hej, god morgon allihopa! Idag ska vi diskutera vad skillnaden är mellan är eller finns, ligger eller står, sitter eller hänger. Today we're going to explore the difference between är and finns, ligger, står, sitter and hänger. Vi börjar med några exempel. Let's start with some example. Det finns en bra restaurang nära mitt hem. In Swedish you would use finns in this situation. Det finns en bra restaurang nära mitt hem. But in English you would say there is a good restaurant near my home. Andra exempel, the second example. Den här restaurangen är riktigt bra. This restaurant is really good. Now you noticed in English we use is much extensively compared to Swedish. In Swedish, we don't always use är for everything. So let's explain when we should use finns and when we should use är. So basically in English, is covers both usage of finns and är in Swedish. And that's why it's dangerous to translate it back from English to Swedish. Så finns betyder exist. Finns means exist, can be found in English if you translated it directly. But it's equivalent to there is or there are to introduce or to present something. So whenever in English you want to say there is something, there are something, to introduce the thing. In Swedish, it always finns. You would never use är in this situation. So you would always use finns when you want to say there is or there are. Vi kan ta två exempel. Let's see two examples. Det finns en fin tempel där jag bor. There is a beautiful temple where I live. Det finns många sevärdheter i mitt hemland. There are many tourist attractions in my home country. So det finns is equivalent to there is or there are. But sometimes in Swedish you would use the expression det är. So det är is a possible expression in Swedish. It is not a taboo, but you use it in another context. You use it when you want to say, for example, det är mycket. It is a lot. So you use it to describe the characteristic of something. It is a lot. So it is not to introduce a new thing. Do you remember? Det finns is to introduce or to present something. Men det är is to describe something. Nu kan vi titta på fler exempel. Now let's look at more examples. Så är betyder is or are to describe something. So är is equivalent to is or are to describe something. Till exempel du kan säga det är en bra idé. Det är en bra idé. It is a good idea. Du kan säga du är så snäll. You are so nice. Okej, så det är eller finns. Nu kan vi börja diskutera vad skillnaden är mellan ligger, står och sitter. Now let's discuss what's the difference between ligger, står and sitter and when we use it. So they are used to describe the exact location of something. And interestingly, in English, you probably would also use is or are. So for example, the restaurant is located to the left of that supermarket, for example. But in Swedish, you would not use the easy word is in this case. Whenever you want to describe an exact location, you would want to be specific, very specific in Swedish and very in detailed, and to describe in which condition the building or the thing is situated surrounding within the surroundings. Så vi kan titta på några exempel. Let's see some example. Till exempel, du kan säga det ligger en tjock bok på bordet. Literally translation would be it lies a thick book on the table. It lies a thick book on the table. Probably in English you would say there is a book on the table or the book is on the table. But in Swedish you cannot say det är en tjock bok på bordet. It's not really idiomatic. You should be specific always in Swedish. You will always say det ligger en tjock bok på bordet. Nästa exempel. De står och pratar. Literally translation would be they are standing and talking. In English, maybe you would only say they're talking, but in Swedish, you would really want to describe how they are situated in relation to the physical position. Okay, de står och pratar. They're standing and talking. Nästa exempel. Det står håll avstånd på skylten. Now, this one is really interesting. Håll avstånd, so it stands keep the distance on the sign. So whenever it's a text on a paper or text on a sign, in Swedish you would not use it writes. So in English maybe you would say it writes, it goes, but in Swedish you would always say det står, it stands, det står. Håll avstånd på skylten. Okej, nu kommer vi till sista förvirrande ord, sitter. Now we come to the last confusing word, sitter. Well, sitter is not supposed to be confusing. Let me explain. Nu kan vi titta på första bilden. Let's look at the first picture. Hur ska du beskriva den här kvinnan på svenska? How would you describe this woman in Swedish? You would say hon sitter och ler. So the logic is like de står och pratar. They are standing and talking. She is sitting and smiling. So in Swedish, you would always be specific when you describe a picture, a person in relation to the physical surrounding. So hon sitter och ler. She's sitting and smiling. Nu tänker vi på den här tavlan. Now let's look at this picture. Well, very interesting phenomena. You would say in Swedish, det sitter en tavlan på väggen. Det sitter en tavlan på väggen. So in English, you probably would say the picture is hanging on the wall. But in Swedish, whenever something is fixed to the wall, which you cannot take down easily, you would use the verb sitter. Sitter in this case means it's fixed to the wall. Det sitter en tavla på väggen. Men du kan säga det hänger en jacka på klädställningen. So the jacket is hanging on the clothes rack. So det hänger en jacka på klädställningen. When you can take it off easily, then you use hänger. When it's fixed to the wall, you use sitter. Okay, let me do a very, very, very quick demonstration. So in Swedish, if you have, for example, a magazine, you would be very specific when you describe where this magazine is. Okay, so nu. Det ligger en magasin på min hand. It lies on my hand. Det står på min hand. Now it stands on my hand. Okej, och jag kan också klistra den på väggen. I kan också stick it to the wall or fix it to the wall. Då sitter den på väggen. Okej, förstår du? Do you understand everything now? Okay. Nu kan vi göra en test. Now let's do a test. How to say? Hur säger man? There are many fun things to do in Stockholm. How to translate it into Swedish? Do you remember? Yes, vi behöver säga det finns många roliga saker att göra i Stockholm. Det finns många roliga saker att göra i Stockholm. Nästa. There is a problem we need to solve. There is a problem we need to solve. Do you remember? There are, there is. Vad ska vi säga på svenska? Det finns ett problem vi måste lösa. Det finns ett problem vi måste lösa. Sista meningen. It is so kind of you. How do you say it is so kind of you? På svenska, du säger det är så snäll av dig. Det är så snäll av dig. So, when you want to say there is, there are, it's finns. When you want to describe something, det är. Next test. Hur ska du beskriva texten på den här skylten? How would you describe the text that you say, okay, now I see it writes this on this sign. How to say that in Swedish? Ja, du kommer att säga, you would say, det står allt är förbjudet, precis allt på skylten. It stands. You use det står när det gäller texter. Okej, nästa bilden. Hur ska du beskriva den här mannen? How would you describe this man? Yes, du kan säga han ligger och vilar, eller han ligger och sover. Vila means resting, sover, sleeping. Okej. Sista frågan, the last question. Hur kan du beskriva magneten här? How would you describe the magnet on the fridge in Swedish? Det sitter många magneter på kylskåpet. Det sitter många magneter på kylskåpet. You would use sitter because they are fixed to the refrigerator. Okej, det är allting för idag. Hoppas du är mycket bättre på att använda är eller finns, sitter eller hänger, ligger, står och alla dessa verb. So I hope you've understand more of it now, and good luck. Lycka till med dina svenska studierna. Tack så jättemycket och vi ses nästa vecka.